Question number 8, Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he agree with his Minister for Ministerial Services' answer to a supplementary question on question number 11 yesterday regarding whether he is in charge of processes in Ministerial Services? Quote, "It depends. It depends on the circumstances. I was not responsible for this particular instance because it was not brought to my attention and there was no reason for it to be." Close quotes.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, I was not responsible for the decision made by the Department as it was an operational matter for the Chief Executive. Well, you should read the Cabinet Manual. Section 3.5 of the Cabinet Manual states that ministers, quote, should not be involved in their department's day-to-day operations. However, acknowledge I'm responsible for answering questions in the House on operational matters.
Supplementary question.
Grant Robertson.
Is it his expectation that ministers in his government will read papers before signing them, particularly documents relating to the overall direction of their portfolio, such as a statement of intent?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, Mr Speaker, and yesterday in the House the member was making the claim that I had made the decision on the purchase of new BMWs. Let's actually quote from the statement of intent.
Point of order,
yes,
Grant Robertson.
It's not what I did, Mr Speaker, and I take offence at that remark.
Order. No order. Order. Members are entitled to raise point of order. I expected a different point of order from the member. Order. To me, I'm not so sympathetic with the point of order he made, but to me, where he would have had a legitimate grievance, he asked a very simple question, whether it is the Prime Minister's expectation. The Prime Minister answered that, and therefore the rest of it was really superfluous to requirements. And so I'd invite the member to ask further supplementary question.
Does he expect ministers in his...
Point of order, the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, let's go to the Hansard yesterday with a question from Mr Robertson. No, it's a point of order.
No. Order. No, we cannot litigate matters that way. The question, I've not supported the member's point of order. I've simply pointed out that the member asked a very simple question about whether the Prime Minister expected ministers to read important documents prior to signing them, I think, such as statements of intent. And the Prime Minister answered that. He said, yes, he did. And going on further, I think, given the simplicity of that question, was unnecessary, and that's why I've invited a supplementary question. I'll come to the member shortly. Grant Robertson.
Does he expect ministers in his government to be aware of a major capital purchase within their portfolio, particularly one with some political risk attached to it? If not, why not?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes I do, and that's why I've changed the procedures actually with Ministerial Services. I'm not actually responsible for the capital budget, that goes somewhere else, but I have changed the procedures and I've made it quite clear to the Chief Executive of DIA I expect an improved performance when it comes to the no surprises policy.
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith. Order. Order.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Order. I've called the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
To the Prime Minister, has he received any advice of any inconsistencies in the Hansard yesterday about what was in the statement of intent for Ministerial Services as compared with what the member claimed was in the statement of intent?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, actually, if I was to quote from the Hansard yesterday, I'd quote from a question from Grant Robertson where he says, is it correct that the, quote, decision to replace the VIP transport fleet was put in front of him as the Minister responsible for Ministerial Services 4 times through March and April 2009 as part of the statement of intent process, and that the Minister responsible, he signed off on those documents? Let's quote, Mr Speaker, from the statement of intent, which says the property, plant and equipment category includes expenditure on computer hardware associated with infrastructure asset projects, office fit-outs and occasional firms, and the cyclical replacement of VIP transport fleets. That's not a decision.
Grant Robertson. Order. The House is getting pretty excited over this matter. Grant Robertson, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does he think it's acceptable for the Minister for Ministerial Services...
Order. I apologise, member. I cannot hear the question being asked. The House will come to order. Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does he think it's acceptable for his Minister for Ministerial Services to have only read a briefing on a major capital issue in his department 2 months after he received it, and then only because, to quote the Minister, I saw an item on the news concerning the purchase of replacement BMWs?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, that minister reads a lot of very large documents, and when he sees a one-line reference to cyclical replacement, that does not present a proposal to the government. If a proposal had been put to the minister, I'm sure he would have remembered, but it never was.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Speaker, I seek leave of the House to table an internal affairs briefing sent to the Prime Minister on 17 December 2010 that goes into some detail about the proposal.
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There's objection. Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Would he deem it appropriate for a minister to take responsibility for an issue in their portfolio, such as the replacement of a vehicle fleet, if it's mentioned in 4 different briefings to him, when a driver tells him it's happening, and when his Chief of Staff is briefed by the department?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I'm responsible for answering questions in the House, as the Cabinet Manual says. I'm not responsible for the decision for purchase because it's in the delegation to the Chief Executive. As I said, I was disappointed with the decision made by the Chief Executive that he did not inform me under the no surprises policy.
Grant Robertson. Order.
Does he agree with John Armstrong that the key doctrine of ministerial accountability is weak and boils down to 2 words, it depends, or would he prefer the description, see no detail, hear no detail, speak no detail?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I respectfully don't agree with Mr Armstrong on that occasion, but I do agree with the stuff he's been writing recently, where he's essentially been saying the Leader of the Opposition is making statements recently that are at risk of making Charlie Sheen look coherent.
Question number 9, Jamie Lee Ross.